I know. Dear Doris, tar very... Oh, should I say tar to Doris? No, I know, yeah. Thank you.
Hey, G!
Oh, hey guys. Are you okay? Awesome. Well, you just caught me writing a letter to my friend Doris. You see, Doris sent me a present, so I'm just writing a little thank you letter. But I want to be really careful about the words that I use, because sometimes using the wrong words and saying things in the wrong way, well, they can get us into a lot of trouble, can't they? Yeah. And you know, would you believe that reminds me of a Bible story? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, gee, last week you told us you were going to tell us a story about a man who had 12 sons. Well, conveniently, me writing this letter to Doris reminds me of the same story that last week I told you we were going to do this week. What are the odds? So, are you ready? Okay, then let's go. A long time ago, there was a man called Jacob. And Jacob had 12 sons. And their names were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Joseph, and Benjamin. Now, by the time Joseph came along, Jacob was a really old man. And because Joseph was born to Jacob when he was old, Jacob really loved Joseph. Now, it's fair to say that Jacob loved all his sons. But it's also fair to say that Joseph was his favourite. And the problem is, Jacob didn't really try hard to hide it. And one day, Jacob made a really cool, colourful, awesome sauce coat for Joseph to wear. And he gave it to him as a present. And you know, his brothers were looking on him, and they could see that Joseph was the favourite of the family. And man, they got jealous. They didn't like Joseph. In fact, the Bible tells us that they started to hate Joseph because he was the favourite and they weren't. And one night, Joseph had a dream. In his dream, he saw him and his 11 brothers gathering grain into big bundles. And those bundles are called sheaves. And in his dream, Joseph's sheaf stood up. And as it stood up, all the other sheaves that his brothers had been doing had gathered around Joseph's one and started bowing down to him. And then he woke up and did a really smart thing and didn't tell his brothers. He just kept it to himself, right? No, he didn't. He got up and he ran to his brothers. He said, "Brothers, listen to my dream." Wow, his brothers were not happy. In fact, they hated him even more. And then another night, he had another dream. And in this dream, there was the sun, that was his father, the moon, that was his mother, and 11 stars, that were his brothers, had all gathered around Joseph and started bowing down to him. And the next morning, he woke up. But now, after last time, when he went to tell his dream to his brothers, he'd cottoned on. He got a bit wise. And so this time, he kept his mouth shut. No, he didn't. No, he did exactly the same thing. Again, he went to his brothers and his father and said, "Listen to the dream that I have had." Wow! His brothers were mad. And even his father Jacob. And Joseph was Jacob's favourite, but even his father was a bit mad. And he was like, Joseph, you're talking nonsense. Shush now. But the Bible tells us that even though his brothers got madder and hated him a little bit more, Jacob kept these things in his mind. Now I wonder, did you notice all the different ways that people were communicating in that story? Well, let's look at Joseph. See, Joseph was doing communication the way that most of us do communication. He was talking. He would go to sleep. He had a dream. He'd get up and he'd go to his brothers and he'd tell his brothers all about this dream that he had. And he would verbally communicate. That's what we call it. When we're talking, it's called verbal communication. But he didn't do it in a very good way. He was kind of doing what we call bragging. He was being very proud, being very like, look guys, I had this dream and you were all going to bow to me, for I am awesome. That's how he was communicating. And his brothers, well, his brothers didn't like it. And maybe sometimes the way we communicate with our words, well, maybe sometimes it's not a good way of doing it. Sometimes we're really excited about something and we try to talk to people about it, but it comes across all wrong because of the words we're using or the way that we use those words. So we have to watch ourselves. The Bible tells us to watch our tongue because even though it's a little part of our body, it can get us into a lot of trouble. So that's the first one. Then there was another type of communication. Did you spot it? That's right, Jacob. How did Jacob communicate? Because Jacob didn't say anything. Well, Jacob communicated with what we call non-verbal communication. That means he didn't talk, he used other ways. And what he did is he communicated with his sons that Joseph was his favourite because he went away and he spent a lot of time and a lot of effort into making this coat for Joseph. And then he gave it to Joseph. And that just showed everybody by his actions that Joseph was his favourite and that he loved Joseph more than his other sons. And sometimes we can do that, right? Sometimes the things we do and the actions that we take, that can show up a lot about us. And sometimes people ask us to do things, we don't do it. Sometimes we know we should be doing something, we know we shouldn't do something, and we do it anyway. And those actions can get us in a lot of trouble. Maybe it's not actions that we do. Maybe it's like a face that we pull or something. You know, maybe someone's saying something to us and we're kind of rolling our eyes and getting a bit fed up and being like, oh, I wish they'd stop talking. Maybe it's something like that. Our actions say a lot about us and a lot about what we're thinking. But there was another form of communication in there. Did you spot the last one? That's right, Joseph's dreams. This is where God was communicating with Joseph. So we've seen how people communicate. We communicate verbally and non-verbally. But you know, God isn't limited to the way that we do things. God can talk to us in a lot of different ways. God can speak to us. He can be verbal with us. God can be non-verbal with us. He can show us things around us. God can speak to other people and ask them to speak to us because maybe we're not listening to God. God can speak through dreams. God can speak through nature. God can speak in a lot of ways. So how do we know when God is communicating with us? Any ideas? Yes, that's right. We have to get to know him. We need to know God so well that when he speaks to us, we know that it's him. So when I'm on the phone and somebody phones me, say my mother phones me, and I pick up the phone and I say, hello. My mother says, hello, my brilliant, awesome son, whom I love. And I'm like, oh, hi, Mum. Because I know it's my mother. Because we talk a lot and I know her voice. So guys, this week, make sure that your words and your actions are those that God would be happy with. And secondly, listen out for God's voice. Listen out for the things that God wants to say to you so that we can be better friends with him. Well guys, that's it for another week of Hope Kidz Online. Now, I know I said that this week we were going to do craft, and I'm really, really sorry, but basically I kind of ran out of time, so I haven't had time to do one by the time this video needs to go out. So, this is what I want you to do this week. I want you to draw Joseph, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to colour in and show me what you think his amazing, colourful coat looked like. And once you're done, send in the photos to me and we'll put them up in next week's video. And next week, I promise, I will try my best to have actual craft for you to do. Guys, thank you so much for watching again this week. And we will see you next week for another Hope Kidz Online. Ready? I hope you're ready, because apparently I'm not. Got this wrong 4 times. Okay, and think about... blah. What's his name? Jacob. There you go. What am I saying? Are you ready? Yes? Are you? I don't know. Stop! Now by the time... Joseph. I keep forgetting his name. Joseph. Okay. What's happening? I don't know. Okay. That breath thing. Now. Ooh la la la, hey banana. They were like, oh, shut up, Joseph. You're talking nonsense. Get out.